Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Welcome, guys. We have quite the backdrop for this week, quite the backdrop for today's show. I mean, really, you would almost kind of wonder after the way last week ended, could it possibly get any crazier? And I am here to tell you that it absolutely has. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get right into it, guys. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I'm Tommy. You guys also know me as Snorlax. I'm joined by Max, Jackus, and Big Louie. Welcome to you guys as well. Hopefully everybody is staying safe throughout this just kind of insane volatility. Hopefully everybody is making money. But yeah, just very crazy conditions. Before we get started, before I kind of talk about what markets are doing, before I even ask for the like button, I want to get the comments involved. I want to get the chat to give your thoughts on whether or not you think the bottom is in. I'm just curious, right? Let's get a little bit of a sentiment check into into the start of the show, guys. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin and ETH, really all of crypto had a very nasty wipeout into Monday's open. We've now had a fake headline. Some might call it a test pump. These are things we'll probably debate on this show. But yes, markets are very, very lively today. And before we can get more in depth as far as where we think they're going, not just this week, but also a bit more long term, I'm going to need you guys to hit the like button. And if you can't hit the like button on a day like today, then I don't know when you can. I really don't want to have to look at soybeans on a day where markets, I mean, if we go to the soybeans chart for like 1 or 2 minutes, quite frankly, we might miss like a 5 to 10% move on any given asset, it feels like. But yeah, just extreme volatility, guys. Like I said, we're going to do our best to cover it for you. Crypto dumped into the open. Equities had, I mean, obviously huge capitulation moves, not just on Thursday and Friday, but also into this Monday open. Is the bottom in? I guess we'll find out. Do we keep nuking? Another thing I think we'll find out. Obviously, pretty much everything comes down to these headlines around tariffs and really kind of their implications for growth. Interest rates to 10 years randomly up 2.5% today. I'm sure we'll need to talk about that as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like at a bit of a loss for words. Usually I have I feel like a little bit more structured of an intro, but I feel like today, it's just kind of one of those days where there's a lot of volatility and there's going to be a lot of unpredictability in the market as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say stay safe. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. What do we think about this volatility? Before we even get into our thoughts on market directionality, right? We should probably talk about how crazy this volatility has been. It's pretty rare that we experience price action like we're seeing right now.
Yeah, you only get to experience. You only get to experience it a few times in life. So it's even like for experienced people among us, it's really tough to manage. It's like it can get easier, but it's never easy. Again, it's not like it's usually once every 8 years this happens. So it can be very, and for people who are experiencing for the first time, oh boy, man, I was there as well. Everyone's there for the first time, but you gotta take away from it as maximum as you can. Write down the notes, write down your feelings every single day. This will happen again in your life, and it will not happen many times. So
I was going to say something similar. I was like, I've been through moments like this before. It can be a little scary at times, for sure, because when you look to other people's opinions or analysis, just because you're trying to figure out what's going on generally, because news is just flowing in, right? There's so much headline risk. There's so much being shaken up, so many things to watch. You kind of have to turn to the hive mind a little bit because the flow of information is just moving a million miles an hour. but also you're living through history right now, which is cool. You're probably only going to see things like this happen maybe once a decade, give or take. And it's not so often that you'll see the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ pull back 20% in like 2 weeks, right? It can be scary. It's certainly not fun on a portfolio side, at least short term, but it's cool to see the VIX spike to 60. Like, that's a historic moment, right? And it's also a moment of opportunity, if you can stomach it, right? If you can stomach it. I was talking to our Discord about it this morning, on our morning conference call. I said, I gave a little more of a backdrop than I'll give here, but there's really one differentiating quality that is going to determine if somebody's going to be successful, whether it's being an entrepreneur, being an investor, doing anything that's not like a structured corporate W-2 style job. It's, can you deal with being uncomfortable? What's your threshold for pain and discomfort? You know, can you deal with it? And do you have a higher tolerance for discomfort mentally than most people? That's really what's going to separate the winners from the losers when you have moments like this, when you have these really awful, aggressive, lows and FUD and uncertainty. Do you have the capacity mentally to deal with it? Most people don't. I will tell you that most people want nothing to do with it. They can't think about it. They're just like, end it. I don't want to deal with it. It's too stressful, and they just like panic, right? And they make these decisions off of emotion. If you have the capacity, if you're in like the top 10% of people that can deal with like the pressure and the pain and the discomfort, you're going to end up doing very well in coming quarters or years after events like this, without question. But that's really what it comes down to, because there's not much to do when something escalates this quick other than just kind of wait it out. And if you have any dry powder, buy good assets. And also, it seems really simple, and like some people will call it stupid, but like you see the NASDAQ down minus 20% from its all-time high in like 2 weeks, or more than that. It was like 22, 23. And you see the VIX spike to 60, and it's like, okay, what do you do? Like, you just start shoving and you just wait. Historically, that's been the right move generally, is start looking for assets to buy when things like that happen. So doesn't mean the bottom's in immediately. Long-winded way to say I don't know. I could see us kind of chopping around here for a little bit longer, especially because it seems like Europe wants to work with Trump a bit. Seems like China does not want to work with Trump a bit. Who could have seen that coming? But we'll have to see. But I think this is a real window of opportunity for those that can deal with the pressure and the pain, personally.
Yep, I would agree.
And I may or may not have bought some egregiously out of the money leaps for later this year on QQQ, just in case. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, being an investor is very similar, like you said this morning, like being an entrepreneur, Max. Like, not many people can be an entrepreneur. The idea of it sounds great, right? When things are good. But it's just like, you got to be able to deal with the pain, the uncertainty, the doubt. It's not like you can clock in and clock out, and investing
People have this romantic vision of what it's like to be like a crypto investor and like an entrepreneur, and like it's far from romantic, right? But sorry, keep going.
No, that's all I really wanted to say. Is I really liked your comparison this morning on the Discord call to that. I know all about that. I'm the same way. I've been pretty entrepreneurial coming out of college. So like I'm used to this. I've been in investing since I got out of college, and I'm used to just living through the uncertainty, the fear. But I've always come out of these scenarios better on the other side. And again, like these are, we are living through history, right? Like, I was here through COVID too. But I don't know specifically, but I was like to my wife this morning, I was like, all right, hey, it's our first Black Monday, like it's like, these are the things you hear about in history that happen, that ultimately end up being generational buying opportunities. Right. And that's where we are, right? That's where we are. So it's either you're looking for opportunity in times like this, or you're over consuming yourself with everything that looks bad and it's going wrong, right? And I think you're better off having the first mindset, which is where can I find opportunity? Where can I put money to work? And then, look back a couple months down the road and see where we're at.
Yeah, there's really no certainty on days like this, right? We're all kind of, we obviously can kind of speculate more so on what's going to happen on a multi-week basis, multi-month, maybe even further out after that. But on a lower time frame, today, probably this week, it's going to be super chaotic, is what I would say, right? So, I mean, it really comes down to like, what is the VIX going to do as far as volatility? Are equities done selling off? And then I think the coins can start to kind of carve out a bottom. But I would like to think that we're beginning to see. I kind of hinted at it at the start of the show, right? A test pump per se. I don't know if that's how I would characterize it necessarily, but clearly you're seeing the market show a lot of reaction to positive headlines, and I don't think that should be ignored coming out of today.
It is called a test pump. I remember one from 2023 when BTC jumped on the ETF news. Then it's, we figured out it was a test pump, and then we continued to fill the wick. So I suppose what will matter here if we continue to fill this 1 hour wick that we have just created, and if so, then it was a test pump for what is likely to come. Trump is a tradesman. He wanted people around the globe to take him fully seriously, that he's serious on this subject. He got their attention, and if he announces that these tariffs that he introduced isn't something finished, but something to negotiate about, then we are looking for a 1 or 2 months bounce time. And then obviously, depending on what is going to be negotiated and what deals have been struck, we will see certain assets do better or worse. But for the overall market, it's a time to calm down and bounce from all of this volatility that we've seen until now, from the past week, basically. So yeah, that would be a positive one. But let's see again if it's a test pump. I think this is something that they'll come with, saying, we are halting these for the 90 days, and let's discuss. Euro already saying that they will have zero tariffs with US. Zero tariffs towards US, zero tariffs towards Europe. So that's better than previously anticipated. We saw the initial reaction on Trump saying that there will be only 10% tariffs on everyone. Then we know what happened when he said that there will be the other tariffs as well. The market nuked. But if suddenly, there will be zero tariffs between Europe and US, oh my God. Suddenly, all of that, the market has priced down, it would reprice back up, but even more bullishly so.
That's the most bullish outcome, is this idea of reciprocal tariffs, where it's like right now we're in this doom loop where what do tariffs imply, right? Reciprocal tariffs immediately add a major expense to all these companies that are manufacturing overseas or doing trade with companies based overseas that sell products in the US, right? So everybody's bottom line is immediately impacted, a huge expense that they didn't have before. So the market's pricing in cost of goods increasing, consumer spending dropping, bottom lines being affected. When that happens, companies end up laying off people. You're going to get a recession. But if reciprocal tariffs actually imply no tariffs, because every country is just like, all right, fine, Trump, no tariffs on anything anymore, and we reciprocate that, and it's totally like zero tariff, free trade globally, that's huge, huge, immediate overnight increase to every company's bottom line. everybody wins in that scenario, right? The only loser is some foreign governments lose a little bit of revenue that they're collecting off of tariffs to the US right now. But it could be a complete 180, right? And that's kind of like the optimistic 4D, 5D chess move, is that there's literally no tariffs for anybody, right? I don't know if that's super realistic, but that would be the ultimate bull case, right? Is that Trump knew this with the sort of hidden or cloaked actual incentive or goal to just get all tariffs removed, which would be the most bullish thing for every major company here in the US, man. I mean, cost of goods they could go down and companies could still, then they'd sell more products, their margins would be higher. It'd be so bullish. I don't know if that's super realistic, but hey, a man can hope. Do you guys think that it would be better for these tariffs to get walked down, or for the Fed to have to intervene with emergency cuts or something like that? Is there a scenario you guys are hoping for? Because something has to give. The way I'm kind of thinking about it is there's three parties at play here. There's Trump representing and negotiating on behalf of the US. There's every other leader around the world and all these countries that have been affected by these reciprocal tariffs. And then there's Jerome Powell, right? One of the three parties has to give. Either Trump needs to bend the knee and walk back the tariffs. These other country leaders need to bend the knee and lower their tariffs to, I guess, lower the reciprocal tariff that the US imposes. Or Powell needs to step in with his constituents and do something, right? But one of these three parties has to bend the knee and be flexible in some way. What do we think is the most likely of those three parties to bend the knee, and which one are you guys hoping for?
Well, I think rate cuts are coming regardless. The yield market is telling us that nonetheless. What will matter is you kind of want to see all parties keep their faces, right?
Yes.
That's important, and you want to see the rate cuts coming in slowly and gradually over time, rather than having like an emergency cut back to like low interest rates and then we go where we were before. At the same time, you want to see these tariffs go down. Suddenly, if we had that, zero tariff, basically global free trade, you have the most bullish conditions in human history, probably the biggest bull market, accompanied by AI effectivity growth. You would have a decade-long bull market. I'm not sure it's that, but I think that lots of the tariffs that were imposed to be so high will come down, and some will stay high. Some will go lower than they were before, and new equilibrium and new world trade will, or new, Bretton Woods 3, basically, we could call it, will be established. So I think we will end up doing better than we were before, but it doesn't come, hopefully, obviously, at the end of the day, it's a speculation from all of us and reading between the lines. But I tend to think that the goal of this, So let's see and watch the levels. I think the market will be telling us.
I think the big domino to fall is China. Kind of our relationship with China. And Jackus, I think you said it best. Like, everybody is going to want to save face in a way, especially China, which is why I think that both sides are appearing like they're just simply not going to back down. Which means the right tail risk is that they actually make a deal. Right tail risk for not just U.S. equities, but also Chinese equities as well. I think that would be the most bullish outcome from all of this. I don't think you're going to see the Fed do QE. Rate cuts, we talked about that last week. I do think that those are beginning to get baked into the market more meaningfully. But unless Scott Bessent and Trump are just lying about wanting to kind of close the wealth inequality issues. I mean, Scott Bessent had a great interview on Friday. I don't know if you guys got to see any of it, but it makes me feel it's very unlikely that we get QE, unless it's some like backdoor QE that's named something completely different than QE, so it's politically palpable. I tend to think that's probably unlikely, but we don't necessarily need QE. I think there are a lot of different ways that this can go ultimately, but In the short term, I think the bullish headline is that, you see like Trump and G on a phone call or something working out a deal.
Likely, yeah. There was a question. What is your plan when they don't drop the tariffs, LMAO? My plan, obviously, if none of this goes through, is to get out and further protect my capital. It's always a hard balance, finding the right balance between protecting your capital, but at the same time not missing the bottom and then coping, because the reality is that during every single bottom that I've been through, people waited for lower and then coped all the way back to new all-time highs. That is the reality of most trending bearish accounts on social media right now. The reality is that most people waited for 14K, 12K, 10K retest on Bitcoin. It's better to be in from even as high as 25K and then experience another 40% drawdown than waiting for lower and then not buying back again because, hey, you could have bought at 15K, but now prices are back at 18, 20K, right? So it's always a tough battle between these two. My plan, if the deals, if they were not made, is always, once again, just like I have done it in early February, is to get out and then look to rebuy, and then you look to rebuy. If that doesn't go through, you protect your capital again, and then you look to rebuy it again. Hope that's kind of clear.
I don't know how you guys. Sorry.
Oh wait. Oh, I was just gonna say the date that.
It's like always, don't go all at once, and then everyone goes all at once.
I was just gonna say it seems like the date where everything is supposed to be getting done is more or less like it has to be done by the 9th. So maybe we see volatility remain elevated until then, and then get the volatility crush. That would be my guess, but I'm also assuming that we make some sort of deal or delay.
I don't know if you guys agree with this take or not, but I would really not want to see Bitcoin come back in the previous range at all. I think right now it looks fine.
Me neither.
But if it comes back in here, it's going to be much different than like what we saw with ETH, right? Because structurally, Bitcoin has had like a bull market, right? But if we look at like what happened with ETH as it pertains to, its previous range, let's go to like here. When you come back in the previous range, like you just can't come back into like previous value, right? So what I really do not want to see is Bitcoin. Here, I can just get rid of this for now. If Bitcoin comes back into the previous range, then we probably go to like low 60s, right? So obviously really different structure than ETH, but like similar in the sense that you're on top of your previous value right now. And I just don't think you want to see that loss. I know a lot of people are, saying, oh, Bitcoin can go to like 60 and it's still fine. I don't really know if I fully agree with that. Like, I wouldn't say Bitcoin's like cooked, forever or anything like that, but you can see what happens. You really just don't want, because if you come down here, then I feel like you do this, and then you come down into here, and it just so bad, right? Do you guys agree with that take, or do you view it a little differently?
I agree, right? I don't think it's that problem still for ETH, like given it's, it has a different structure on the left side of the chart. So I still view ETH to be in just a giant range. But I agree with BTC and the current circumstances that you do not want to see it coming back down to 60K anymore, because people do not understand the higher time frame implications of going sub 50K.
It would set things back quite a bit, right?
So listen, sub sub 50K Bitcoin is basically to me like when we were losing 3K in February, early February. And I was saying, I'm out of the market because we lost the structure on the weekly. And people were like, no, this is still good. We're going to go up. And then look where we are today. That's 50K for Bitcoin. 50K, sub 50K for Bitcoin to me is 20K for Bitcoin. And then that's probably lower. It's like there are certain structures that you need to hold. Like you didn't spend 6-7 months or how long in that range just like that. That range needs to be defended forever. We have never lost an origin of the move monthly support on Bitcoin ever. This one cannot be lost again.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's something I've been saying for a while now, that like we got two Tommies.
Surprise.
Matrix.
And that's something I've been saying for a while now. It's like, and that's why I'm expecting this to be the general low area for Bitcoin, right? If we do start to enter that area where we were ranging for 8 months and gearing up for the move that we saw to 110K, it's way more of a sign of weakness than just retesting old structure into support, right? A retest of that old structure, if it was going to happen, should have happened weeks at most after we broke out of that range, and it didn't, right? So if we were to come back into that now, you're not going to hit 70K or 69K and just recover out of there. You know what I mean? Like the bounce needs to happen in this area right now. Yeah, sure. We saw a nice weekend sell-off once again and made slightly new lows, right? But we still have not come into that structure, right? So I still am in belief that Bitcoin is going to bottom around this area. And if it doesn't, right, if we do start to re-enter that range, I think it's we're in for a way longer period of downside and ranging than we've already seen. So I would agree. I do not want to see Bitcoin re-enter that range. And if it does, I'll have to switch my tune, where most people will probably be like, okay, we've come down far enough. Now it's time for the V-shaped recovery. All the bears flip bullish down there. And then it just remains bearish for a long period of time. So I would agree that, this has to be the area, right, where we see a bounce and some sort of reversal. And I think we still get it, right? I think we still get it. And anyone who panic sold over the weekend is already in shambles here, right? Everything's up probably way higher. If not mostly everything is higher than where it was last night. And it goes back to, again, people like selling weekend moves has just never really worked out in your favor over the last couple months, unless it was early February. So I think we're in a great spot. I think we're for generational buying opportunities across the board, for real, like equities, crypto, everything. And we saw that fake news that we got on the 90-day pause. We saw exactly what happened following that news. We saw massive volatility. And again, Jack has mentioned it, but it reminds me a lot of that fake Bitcoin ETF news, right? Where we got the fake news, right, that it was coming. We all knew it was coming. We got the fake report, and then a couple of days later, we got the real report. But the bounce that came from the fake news initiated, that big run up we saw for Bitcoin. So I think we're probably going to see something very similar to that from what we saw this morning off that fake 90-day pause. And coming back to that first question, Max, I think it's probably a combination of all three, right? I think we're at a spot where everyone kind of has to give a little bit in order for things to work out and be saved. And I think that's probably what we see, right? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for rates to come down. I'm looking for these tariffs, these egregiously high numbers on tariffs to be lowered, right? Or taken away. And I think, and China will probably end up having to play ball as well, so I'm expecting a little bit of all three, right? Everyone, kind of gives in a little bit, comes to an agreement, and we go from there. And one more thing, because I'm seeing a lot of comments on this. If you thought this wasn't going to come without Trump in office and Trump doing all this, you're mistaken. The system was already broken, right? And we've just been kicking the can down the road for years. This was coming no matter what. But what we're doing now, what we're seeing now, is we're kind of getting ahead of it, right? We're kind of getting ahead of that eventual collapse of kicking the can down the road. We're taking our medicine. But people saying, oh, I can't believe this is happening. No one's going to vote for Republicans anymore. Like, this is unheard of. This is unseen. Why is he doing this? Well, guess what? If this didn't happen now, this was going to happen a year or two down the road anyways, probably way worse than what we're seeing now. But what we did is we're getting in front of it at this point, in my opinion. And we're getting in front of it. We're seeing a quick reflexive price in of the worst case scenario, which is also great, right? I'd rather us see drop quickly like we are now versus months and months of slow grind to the downside. That would be worst case scenario, right? That's when you get into that time-based capitulation. But we're ripping the Band-Aid off. We're taking our medicine. We're getting ahead of the issues that were likely going to come anyways. And we're trying to fix it now to set ourselves up for years and years of prosperity moving forward. So I just wanted to touch on that because I'm seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. I just think we need to hold here, man. Like, so important. I mean, you've got a little wiggle room here, you know, but the people that are calling for, like, you know, down here now, no, I don't.
It doesn't stop at that low if you're going down there.
No, it doesn't, man. Like, you either hold here or you play this, short this, long shoulder over in here, and then you probably come like down here.
You just run back the DJI fractal from the 2000s if you do that, in my opinion. It comes down a lot.
Well, I'd be happy to.
I think you would not be happy to.
No. I'd be happy to put that on the chart for you, but I would not be happy to look at that chart, bro. That's crazy. Wow. All right, which one? So you're talking about from right here, Tommy, or you're talking about?
I would reference my profile picture. I mean, long story short, like, you just can't break the structure. If you re-accept back into the range, man, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I agree. You cannot accept back into the range. Like, you would probably get a bounce, but you know.
It's kind of interesting. That's not what I had in mind, but it kind of fits.
Yeah.
I would be kind of coping because I'm not expecting a move that quickly.
I mean, I don't think it's doing that, right? But just saying, like, this is the level, you know. It just, you just can't lose this. I don't see how you could lose it. You've built up too much accumulation in here to lose this and be okay. The positional unwind that you'd see would be biblical, man. I mean, it would be carnage.
Well, you remember too, we were talking about how the range, it wasn't that 7 month range between like 45 to 70K. It's that 4-year range that we broke out of.
Yeah. It's this, right?
Or like 30K. I mean, it just kind of depends on where you want to draw it. But yeah, I mean, it's this level has to hold it. It's not an exaggeration to say lose this level and it's lights out.
All right, we could maybe tighten it up to like this, you know, something like this. We got a lot of drawings on here now, but it's like you just can't. I like this. This is the range. Clean mid-range. I guess this works too, but No, we got to hold here, man. We got to hold here. I think we can. Now, guys, we're trying something different today, all right? We're going to run a little 60-second clip for you guys. So we will be back in 60 seconds. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to, but it's cool. Leave us a like. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. See you in 60 seconds.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal.
All right. There you go. The first ever commercial ever run for BB and BB Terminal. I thought it was pretty cool. Our man Z is a wizard. He made it. He made it.
That was awesome.
Clap, clap, clap.
The
That's
devs are doing
amazing.
something. We love it.
Squeeze him. Squeeze him. But yeah, anyways, I really think we need to hold here, man. I do. I think we do. And I think that we can. I do. I think that we can. I think that we will. What do we think about the VIX here, guys? I want to specifically hear from Tommy, because the VIX this morning looks like it hit 60. We've seen the VIX higher before. What do we think of the VIX?
Yeah, it opened at 60 last night. And I was just thinking to myself about all the people who shorted volatility on Friday. Even some really smart guys probably saw that. We're just thinking to themselves, oh, shit. But yeah, I mean, locally speaking, we're at an extreme, right? I don't really think it makes sense to continue to look for like volatility longs at these prices necessarily. But that's not to say that we can't maybe go higher into like the 9th, right? Or until we get maybe a little bit more clarity on specifically, I think, you know, our relationship with China right now. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just kind of see. I would say, gun to my head, I think we could still make a move up to like maybe 70. I wouldn't be expecting too much more than that, though, personally. I guess we'll see what happens after that. But if you don't get a move higher on the VIX into like Wednesday, I'd be kind of surprised if you kept moving higher like on it later this week, if that makes sense. I think the window for volatility to continue to rise is really over the next like 48 to 72 hours.
It's hard to imagine not getting a VIX crush after this. But I mean, something to consider too is I'm on the monthly time frame, right? If we were to go back to like the daily or something, there have been periods of time, you know, like in 2008, right? Where from when you finally peak out, you stay up here for quite a bit of time, right? Before you really started to see the crush, it took 2 months to, 2 to 4 months before it really started getting crushed, depending on how you want to measure like when the crush happened. And we could maybe look at like, you know, the NASDAQ or something. But in the past, you've spent a little bit of time at these elevated levels after you finally put in your blow off. So I guess that would be kind of a painful reaccumulation if we ended up having to sit down here for, you know, multiple months and then carve out the bottom. but it's also, I think, probably fair to assume, like, yeah, like we just had this spike. I don't know if there's a reason to sit up here for like, 2 to 4 months, because more times than not, we'll see a much quicker turnaround, right? Like most of these sell off pretty quickly. So I don't know. I know that the gaps like to fill, and I see some gaps. Nice little gappy poo right here. Maybe.
I think the gaps in equities that are gonna like be the de facto line in the sand are the 2 gaps down that we just had last week, right after we got the tariff announcement that kind of caught the market with its pants down. Realistically, if you're strongly reclaiming that top gap that you just marked out, Max, I mean that's a really good signal for bulls.
Yeah, so if we see later on like this, that'd be a crazy move, right? Start even going backwards. Go up that much.
Study time travel.
Study time travel. You go up so fast, you start going backwards in time. But yeah, I mean, this will be a really interesting level to retest right here. See what happens, because this was kind of your dead cat bounce in a way. We just look at it like this. Very clear break of trend and retest. So I mean, this is your supply, your mega supply, right? Oops. You probably work your way back up there at some point for a retest. And then the big question will be like, what's the narrative like at that point in time, right? Tariffs lifted, lower rates, whatever it may be. Is it enough to kind of spring us into like a higher low, right?
What do we think about the 10-year here? It's up like 3% today. Thought that was interesting.
I think it's just a bounce, regular. That doesn't really change anything. It's just sort of price, just retracing to its prior levels. But I think the trend is down clearly until, you reclaim some levels. So I think the same is on the 2-year yield. It's simply, the market got scared. It went down a lot. Now we had some bounce. Things calm down a little, but I think the yields will continue to go down.
I mean, this looks like Caspa, like last year, man. It looks so distributive, right? I know it's not that simple, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be longing this chart. I don't.
It's like capitulation is loading.
Yeah, dude, it literally looks like it's about to backfill. If this was a shit coin, we'd be like, oh man, this is getting backfilled right down here, It looks so bad.
That really does look terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does look so bad. I mean, I know we had a little sweep and bounce today, but I mean, this is, man, like bounce, shoulder. I don't know.
It's a bouncing ball. Euthanasia coaster.
It looks awful. A lot of these, these US yields they're acting differently than what Powell is suggesting, right? They are acting as though there's a lot of rate cuts coming this year and coming sooner rather than later. But Powell is still, acting a little hawkish, right? Do you guys believe Powell or no?
I understand where he's coming from, right? I mean, we don't necessarily know what the impacts as far as inflation goes will be from things like tariffs. So they probably don't want to be overly reactive to a very aggressive market down. And then, we find out that okay, these are inflationary and we cut rates, which would undo a lot of the work that the Fed has been, working towards here over the last 2 years. If I had to guess, that's the source of their hesitancy. I guess what might force their hand, though, is movement in the bond market, right? We kind of saw the MOVE index look pretty bullish this morning. I haven't checked it since then, but maybe HYG is a decent thing that we could look at as well. But yeah, you're getting some movement in credit in the bond market. When that tends to happen, then all the yap turns into action.
Yeah, this looks aggressive.
Well, as usual, Powell acts tough, but in reality, he follows what the bond market is telling him. So if the yields were to go up, he would have to rate hike, and if the yields are going down, then he has to rate cut. He acted tough before the rate hikes in 2021, and then the yields were going higher. He said, inflation's transitory, and we are not looking to rate hike, and then he had to act, and I think the same thing would be here. If yields continue to go down, he can act tough, saying like, yeah, we are not going to cut or something, but he will.
Dude, look at what they did to IWM. Criminal. So much crime on this chart. I can't believe they swept the all-time high and then sent it straight down. Oh, dude. You guys think IWM makes a new low or no?
Well, that kind of depends on if we have finished with the selling all around, like because the rate cuts that are coming are inevitably bullish for low caps. But obviously it depends whether he actually implements the 90-day period for negotiations or not here. And if so, then I think IWM has bottomed. If not, you would continue to see the black swan as in COVID. You might see a spike through. I think once again, what I was saying earlier, right? Even though you might get even if you were to get a follow through, it's still better to be early than not being in at all and then missing it out completely. Not saying, by the way, to buy IWM, but if you are looking to buy a low cap stock, then you want to be positioning what this index is telling you, or low cap crypto.
Yeah. It's I mean, it kind of looks like ETH a little bit. Not quite, but obviously they move somewhat similarly. But if you really think about it, like the only thing that had a bull market over the past couple of years was like a dozen stocks. It's like IWM never really had a bull market. ETH never had a bull market. Alts never had a bull market. It was just like Mag 7 bull market, right? So I look at this and I'm like, if we're just in a range, in theory, this is like good value, right? This is good value, I would think. Kind of to me looks like this. Something like this.
Like what? Did I freeze? Or did Max freeze?
I think Max freeze.
It's like, wait a
Always
minute, did my screen
hyper-focused.
just freeze?
He was something like this, and then just froze.
Oh, he's going to be so disappointed we didn't get to hear it.
Well, that was the big drop into COVID, and then they turned the money printer on, and then we saw how that affected low cap stocks. So, we'll see. We will see. I am surprised it dropped this low. Obviously, with everything going on now, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, geez, that thing got absolutely smoked.
Yeah.
But it's kind of more or less catching up to the ETH structure, isn't it? What do you think about that, Jackus?
Sorry?
Do you think IWM is kind of more or less catching up to the ETH structure? Not that it's a cause, but I just think they look a little bit similar when I'm looking at them.
No, they are similar. I've been charting them together for a while, using them as a confluences. IWM is the stronger out of the two, unfortunately. So, but yeah, you're a deep value. Like, you only see this type of sell-off only, once every few years. So, I think regardless. Well, I'll be completely. I'll switch it up a little bit. If ETH were to drop lower, I think ETH is cooked forever. I think ETH needs to hold here.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that kind of brings us to a super chat that we have, right? Rundown on the outlook of ETH and Pepe. I know Max would have wanted to be here for this.
Let's wait for him.
Yeah, we do have. In the meantime, we do have this super chat as well from Crypto Kasuki. I hope I said that correctly. The Federal Reserve announces emergency closed board meeting today to discuss the advance and discount interest rates. Do we have any thoughts on those, gentlemen?
Not surprising. Not surprising. They're going to be expected to do something, right? Yes, their mandate inflation, employment, but if things keep going the way they're going, employment's going to get crushed, right? So, and inherently that would also bring down inflation. So I think right now they have to worry about the labor market and do something, right? Right now, global markets are in a free fall, right? And obviously they say they don't look at markets, right? But it's going to have an overall effect, right? And everything the soft landing that they've been trying to plan and put in is at risk of falling apart if they don't act relatively soon. They definitely can't wait till May, right? So not surprising to me.
They have to address it on the next meeting, which is coming in about exactly a month. So they either have to cut already, or they have to at least say that on the next meeting they will do it. Oh, welcome back.
Howdy.
Howdy. Man, they just rugged me. What did I miss?
The globalists don't want you to talk about our super chats, Max.
Oh.
You missed a super chat. It was directed basically towards just you. ETH and Pepe. Yeah. Right.
You want me to talk about it? Okay. Well, Jackus, you had an interesting take on Pepe this morning. I heard you say it in the morning conference call. I
have, but we were like, hey, Pepe, that's Max's expertise, so let's wait for Max. Because listen, I'm never as enthusiastic as you are when covering Pepe. Like you can feel it when Max talks about Pepe.
Talking about the fro.
And I know you wanna cook.
Well, if you insist, twist my arm, I guess. Pepe, in my opinion, looks really constructive here. It's one of the very few beta plays that has actually held up much better than its alpha. I think a lot of people are looking at this Pepe chart and they're viewing this as like big correction. And in one regard, you're right. Like, they've been pretty nasty shakeouts. But I view all of this as just one giant reaccumulation before ultimately going higher when majors, in my view, do recover, which we could debate, the timing on all that. But yeah, so my targets on Pepe remain the same. I think it's going to go a lot higher, and I think the proof is in something like, Pepe ETH, right here. So this is Pepe paired against ETH, so beta against alpha. And something that we've been following quite closely is how you're actually seeing, despite how piss poor majors are performing, looks like we're following the squiggle kind of nicely. You're seeing Pepe ETH try to move up here, which is a really good sign. And we've actually seen Pepe looking bullish against ETH, which again, you could be like, haha, it's ETH, doesn't matter. Like, you know, ETH is always bearish. Yes, but it still does matter as sort of a proxy or like a gauge for how ETH beta is doing, because the pairs will tell you everything, even despite USD prices, you know, being in a major pullback right now. Prime example of that, and again, this is not Pepe USD, this is Pepe ETH. Right? Like when this starts to move up, it's pretty damn good signal for like when you're going to start breaking higher. So let's put up Pepe USD down below. Here's Pepe USD and Pepe ETH up top. So Pepe USD down below. When you've seen in the past the Pepe ETH pair, even just like reclaiming an important level. So like not even breaking out, but let's just say reclaiming, you know, this range low that was lost right here. Even before the breakout, it gave good signal as like, hey, bottom is closer. People are starting to get out in front of a high time frame bottom on ETH and Bitcoin. And it's time to start looking at like the beta of choice, right? So when I look at this over here, I say to myself, okay, Pepe USD certainly has some work to do, but the fact that it's trying to break higher against its ETH pair is telling me that we're in a good spot. We're positioned very, very well for, you know, whenever ETH does finally put in a big bounce, you're going to see this Pepe ETH pair probably shoot up, you know, to somewhere and retest this region, like the all-time high distribution, because taking the USD valuations out of the equation and just looking at this, you go, you know, swing low, swing high, right? Like you're just kind of in this range. And it looks to me to be bullish, right? It doesn't mean you can't come back into demand or even retest range low, but like this to me looks bullish. So I think it's really more a matter of when ETH finally puts in a bounce, Pepe is going to put in a huge, huge, huge bounce. And obviously ETH has work to do, so just kind of taper expectations for the time being. But with ETH down the way that it is, like Pepe ETH has been moving up. It put in its bottom when ETH was at 2200, 2150. So ETH's at 1550 right now, give or take. You know, Pepe ETH has been moving up while ETH USD is moving down, which is a really good sign. And then of course the most important pair that I watch is actually going to be Pepe Doge. So it's like your ETH BTC. It's like your ETH BTC, but for beta, right? How's your new king beta of this cycle performing against, you know, your time tested proof of work safe? I mean, Doge it's the Bitcoin of meme coins. We've talked about this. So at the same time, I'm seeing Pepe Doge putting in, to me, what looks to be a very bullish structure. It's in a range, respecting range high, mid range, and range low, and it looks to be trying to break higher here. So little fun fact about this pair in particular is that the market has never nuked while this pair is moving higher. Now, you could say, well, this is going to reject here. You could be right. Like we have this diagonal compression and we have this mid-range that we need to work out. You know, this is a big level. But if you do end up flipping this level, you know, and moving higher, the market likely puts in a sizable bounce at the same time. As long as I've been watching this pair, it's never moved up and the market's gone down. So it could be a situation, again, optimistically, where people are, you know, front running an anticipated bounce in their alpha, saying when alpha does bounce, Bitcoin and ETH, I know that Pepe is going to be one of the front runners, and Pepe's volume is supportive of that. Pepe has like the most volume out of any shitcoin traded in this market. People want to trade and own Pepe. So I'm viewing this as one giant reaccumulation, despite how nasty these 3 sell-offs have been here. I think that the writing on the wall for the pairs is telling you, hey, this is your, range low region. Like, this is your range low. It should hold, and when majors do put in a bounce, Pepe is going to be a leader off of the low when that time comes. So, those are just kind of like my general takes on it, is that I think that the strength that you're seeing from Pepe here at the lows is very revealing. Not even so much with the USD valuation, which, by the way, is, given what happened to ETH and given what's going on with equities, like, the strength is very much so real. I know it's easy to look at it and be like, oh, it's just like ETH beta and it's down like, 70% or whatever. But it's like, it's also a shit coin. Like, minus 70% on a shit coin is not that egregious, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, it's holding range low. It's literally been in a giant reaccumulation since March when it first peaked out. The volume is very supportive of trend continuation when majors finally move. And the Pepe ETH and Pepe Doge pairs are telling me that this is very bullish. So you couldn't, like, I would never consider selling down here. Like, I think it's a terrible spot personally to sell. I think this is just a brief pause. This is one giant reaccumulation. In my view, this is more likely a reaccumulation than a distribution. It's had plenty of opportunities to break down. It's one of the only coins that's actually holding its, like, year-long support. I think it's going to go a lot higher, and I think it's going to be a leader off the lows. So where are you within this? I mean, you're probably in some version of like this right now, just some bottoming range. And we'll see exactly what it looks like and how long it takes. But I do think this is ultimately a reaccumulation that's going to send it a lot higher when the time is right. But it needs Bitcoin to obviously move up from here. It needs ETH to put in a bounce. It doesn't need much from ETH. It really doesn't. I mean, we've seen in the past, ETH has put in, a 15% move and Pepe will rip 200%. So I like it here. I do, personally. I mean, I liked it. I've been bullish on Pepe, I was bullish Pepe here. I was bullish Pepe here. I was bullish at the highs here. I was bullish at the lows here. I was bullish at the highs here. Bullish at the lows here. Bullish at the highs. Bullish at the. I've been nothing but bullish the whole time, and I just remain in my same position. I've been holding Pepe and adding for over a year. I don't think it's gonna like lose this level and venture down into the goblin town. I think the pairs are painting the truth. So
the strength on it has been really pretty surprising to me, I have to say. I was watching it a lot yesterday.
It literally didn't make a new low after everything we've seen the last like couple trading sessions. It's like that. If that's not like signal to you, then I don't know what is. And it's just funny because the same people that are bearish here are the same people that would have never been able to buy the lows. Like, we were buying multiples lower, right? When no one wanted to buy it, right? When everyone was bearish on it, right? Yet again, it's going lower. We're bearish. You're an idiot. You're coping. Like, we've been bullish for much lower. We're up multiples. And we're just following our thesis, right? So, yeah, sure, we're coping. We're coping up multiples. So
people, they like to give me a lot of shit about my holdings, which is like just a classic none of your business. Why would you concern yourself with what somebody else is holding? But they like to give me a lot of shit because Pepe's, had a nasty pullback here. But then I say to them, all right, well, let's look at when I bought Pepe. Like, how many people have actually truly outperformed Bitcoin this cycle? Not many. I was buying Pepe. Majority of my bag was bought right here. This is the Pepe Bitcoin pair. Like, from where I bought, I don't remember exactly what level. I'm still up 3x against Bitcoin for this entire cycle. So it's like, I'm really not feeling it, like, I'm not concerned about it. I'm just watching the pairs, making sure that like things remain relatively strong. And that's really my only concern, is just like making sure that we're holding the levels that we ultimately need to. watching for when bounces do come, seeing how it behaves. Like I'm up 3x. Like I didn't have a core Bitcoin position going into the cycle. My core holding this cycle was Pepe. And even given this horrible pullback, I'm up 3x against what I would be holding spot Bitcoin. Like I don't know many other coins that are up against Bitcoin at this point. Look at what Bitcoin dominance has been doing all cycle. So people are like, oh, you're down so bad. I'm like, I mean, from the highs, like USD valuation, yeah. But I'm like, my bag is up 3x against this, which is a straight up in a straight line Bitcoin dominance rally. That's not so bad, you know? But I appreciate everybody's concern for my personal holdings, right? It's just so funny.
If they're
Like,
if they were doing
why are
better
you
than us, they
concerned
wouldn't be
about me?
so
Like,
angry.
don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah. If they were doing better than us, they wouldn't be so angry. They're obviously very angry for a reason, and we're not, you know. So it is what it is. But yet they tune in.
It's all good. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't really be too worried about Pepe here, man. It's fine. But we are gonna run one more commercial. We got a second one, different style. So guys, we'll be back in 60 seconds.
Every morning, coffee in hand, I open up the BB terminal. We built this platform to be your trusted companion, whether you're actively trading, investing for the long haul, or even dabbling in the degen space. Let's start with the BB portfolio. It integrates with over 60 blockchain networks and supports both wallet connections and manual entries, making it flexible enough for any trader. On the active page, you'll find advanced charting tools, complete with more than 21 custom scripts to give you deeper insights. Beneath that, our intuitive heat map helps you spot key support and resistance levels easily. But we know active trading isn't everyone's style, so we created the DCA page, equipped with over 35 thoughtful indicators. It's designed to assist you in making informed, strategic, and long-term investment decisions. We're genuinely proud of what we've created here at BB, and we continually strive to improve it every day.
All right, commercial number 2.
They're arbing my outros out of the equation. That's crazy.
Everybody's
AI
being
is taking
replaced
your
by
job.
AI production, Tommy. Don't feel bad.
I liked it.
What was with the coffee mugs?
I don't know, man. Some guy thought it was cool. He made it. I don't know. Funny thing about that one is we reused all the footage from BB Academy, like that trailer, because that's like the only footage we have. So I think Ed just put it into like a bunch of AI production or something, and I guess the coffee mugs were a hit, you know.
And I remember our old coffee mugs. Good times.
Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Speaking of, do we finally get the sweep? Do we take out the blow off, guys?
I didn't even realize Bitcoin dominance was that high. Like today, that is.
Yeah. Because I remember last cycle, before things got really fun, we took out that was like the final, you know, oh, we're finally good. That was the blow off. Nope. Sweep and then Jeet, right? Do we do the sweep and Jeet again? The famous sweep and Jeet? Or do we end up just going way, way, way higher?
We're taking those 2 highs, Max.
These from last cycle?
Those highs.
You think here?
Yes. Not like this week, obviously, but I think at some
I would
point.
hope not this week. Oh my goodness.
I don't think we should rule out a sweep of those highs. I'm gonna stick with my thesis right now that we're more or less playing out like an inverted version of what BNB did in 2021, which makes sense to me when I think about like altcoins contextually, that it would look like a shitcoin exchange.
I guess my only problem with that, I mean, I guess it's certainly possible, is like what you're implying is like it's not even that far off anymore, whatever. But it's like ETH BTC literally will probably go down to like 0.01 if that happens.
Maybe.
Oh God.
I don't really have too strong of a bias on ETH BTC, but I do think the Bitcoin dominance, there's not really any reason for it to go lower at this point. Not yet.
I tend to think personally that we also go higher still on the BTC dominance before we see a broader alt performance, but I don't think there's that much upside anymore on it.
Yeah, I would agree, but I've been wrong a couple times trying to get the top. I mean, I still think we're in the general area for it, right? I don't think we go that high, but I mean, who knows at this point? We've already come this far.
You've only been wrong
we'll
a
see.
couple
And it doesn't
times on
necessarily mean alts will get crushed. That, Bitcoin can be ripping to the upside and dragging alts along with it, so it's been going up this whole time. We've seen alts, it's been more of a picker market, but we've seen alts do well in an environment where Bitcoin dominance has just been a slow grind higher. So I don't think it'd be detrimental if we did it. Obviously, as someone who, is not in Bitcoin anymore, I was the first half of the cycle, I'd want to see this top sooner rather than later. But again, if this can continue rallying in a bullish crypto environment where Bitcoin's going up, but it's also dragging ETH and alts with it, right? Like Bitcoin's not going to rip higher and alts and ETH are going to bleed. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah, and fair to say that there's been lots of opportunities this entire time. Again, it's mainly inverted ETH BTC. So still good if you look at for opportunities elsewhere. Not saying that there is much right now, but there will be in the future. But yeah, for the broader altcoin outperformance, once again, I think you still need IWM above new all-time highs, and I think you need ETH USD above 4K to see that general alt outperformance. But when it comes to the USD price, they could be bottomed here. But when it comes to the outperformance, I think there is more to go. But again, even, like you mentioned Pepe, and during this entire time of BTC dominance going up, Pepe still outperformed Bitcoin.
Yeah, a lot of coins have, right, in the last couple months. Like specifically my portfolio, like I rode Bitcoin from 17.5K to like 65K. And then in that 8-month range, I, DCA'd out of Bitcoin and started entering into altcoins, right? When there's a lot of big talking heads saying you should hold nothing but Bitcoin. And I guess if you're not, it really depends, right? Because in my case, I was able to catch tons of winners, DCing out of taking profit on my Bitcoin and playing the altcoin market. So there was a huge opportunity cost that you missed if you were just sitting in Bitcoin. But people have different strategies. Some people just want to buy Bitcoin, stack it, and they're not active. I'm more active, right? So for me, I'm up way more multiples than I would have been just holding Bitcoin here, especially after this drop, right? So it really just depends on your strategy and what you want to do. And that's kind of where people get mixed up. Like they think like there's just like a one size fits all strategy. And that's that. But like, everyone has their own way of doing things, right? And there's a million ways to make a million. So it really just depends, right? You could look at certain altcoins and be like, yes, obviously Bitcoin has outperformed altcoins, but there's also other cases where Bitcoin way underperformed certain altcoins if you were buying them at the right times, right? So, it just is what it is. A lot of people saying you should be in stables right now. They're probably the same people that weren't buying the lows of the bear market back in 2022, right? Like, it just is what it is. If you want to wait for easy mode, sure. You don't buy any bottoms then, right? And then you buy things higher. To me, these are opportunities, right? When the market's down and no one wants to buy, that's when I buy, right? So it really just depends on your strategy, but there has been a massive opportunity cost if you were just holding Bitcoin and didn't play in the arena of altcoins. But again, you had to pick the right ones.
I think Bitcoin dominance is a little bit tough to trade in the sense that, like contextually, most of the altcoins that kind of compile at least like Bitcoin against altcoins, right? The altcoins that make up that basket, most of them, or a lot of them, probably not most of them, or maybe most of them, but like at least a lot of them are probably never going to make all-time highs again. So in theory, you could see Bitcoin dominance just kind of continue to move up for a long time. But there are still going to be these altcoins in the same way that we've seen since the bottom in 2022 that just have these drastic cycles of outperformance against BTC. And maybe they eventually revert to the mean, right? Something like a Celestia, but they still give you plenty of attention, mind share, and opportunity against Bitcoin for a fairly prolonged period of time. So, but it's kind of like tough because, right, you're not going to expect something like Litecoin. I'm not really expecting Litecoin at this point. I have no idea when I think that would make all-time highs. I could point to a lot of other dinos or even heavy VC or like heavily diluted VC coins from 2021. Like a lot of those aren't going to make all-time highs again. And that's fine. But when you're talking about the topic of Bitcoin dominance, like Bitcoin will probably continue to move up against those assets forever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it just goes back, like there might be just a different way to start reading this chart, right? We've always looked at it as Bitcoin dominance rising, eventually tops in, falls significantly, and altcoins, thrive. We might be in an environment where just Bitcoin dominance continues chugging higher. And you have, a select few, of the correct altcoins have, do well, right? And it's going to be more of a picker market, it just might, the things are, there's new players at the table, right? There's new players, big money's at the table, and things are changing, right? And that's just markets. Markets are always going to evolve. But that doesn't mean you look at it as like a negative. You just got to adapt and go with the flow.
Definitely. Speaking of going with the flow, Tommy, you've been partially replaced by AI, but not fully. Would you do us the honor? Tell everybody about the BB terminal, brother.
I will. Well, like the commercials throughout the video set, I hope you like those, by the way, guys. I think they're very well done. That was my first time seeing them today. But yeah, if you're looking for your go-to tool for the cycle, whether or not you are an active trader, a long-term investor, and soon an on-chain degen, the BB terminal will be your go-to hub for all things trading to be able to conquer these markets. So make sure to check that out, guys. And as I always say, we are nice enough to package that together at a discounted rate with our premium Discord. If you're looking to get more intimate access to the team, our thoughts on the market in real time, and even our positioning, come check out the BB Discord. We also have a kick-ass community, honestly. We have some really great guys in there who have been crushing not just on-chain markets, but also the perps trading. We've got a few guys that have been nailing these moves on leverage, which is always great to see as well. Of course, if you're looking to hone your educational base or even reach trading level mastery, we've also got the BB Academy where you can come learn from the team in a bit more of an intimate setting. And finally, but certainly not least, or last but certainly not least, we have BB Wealth Management, guys. Maybe the market is getting to you, right? I mean, this volatility, especially the last week, is just absolutely insane. Maybe you're one of those people who says, I just can't take it anymore. I want out of crypto. I want my exit pump so I can leave forever. Well, fortunately, we have the opportunity for the team to manage capital for you. We have an SEC registered hedge fund. And we manage digital assets in a way that looks to capture their asymmetric history for upside returns while also balancing the downside risk posed in any financial market. So, yeah, that's if anything that I just said over the last 90 seconds resonated with you, check out the description below this video, guys. But until tomorrow, that concludes today's episode of Market Check. We hope that you enjoyed today's show. A great way to start off the week, right? Not just on the show, but also in markets. Just crazy, unpredictable. I'm sure that's not going to change at any point this week, but we will be here to cover it for you guys, rest assured. But yeah, a reminder that Market Check is live Monday through Friday, our typical start time around 11 to 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But make sure to end your day with Market Talk and King Wabi. That is hosted through the Because Bitcoin X account. So make sure to stay following and subscribed so you can be notified not just when we schedule those spaces, but also when we go live. Thanks, guys. That's it for today's show. Let's have a great week of markets, a great week of trading. But until tomorrow, guys, thanks again. And of course, as always, stay safe.